So this week, I've been preparing for this talk, and I was researching these statistics known as deaths by despair. And these are deaths that happen due to suicide, alcohol, drug overdose, depression, etc., etc., etc. And in the past 2 decades, these numbers have skyrocketed. And that's no surprise to you guys, right? But what was interesting about my research was between the 70s and into the 90s, these numbers were not only low, but they were declining. And I was like, whoa, that's amazing. Sheikh, you grew up during this time. You were in Houston, Texas. I want to just take a time machine and go back into that time. Like, how was it growing up for you in that environment, and how is it compared to what it is now?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah. How much time do I have? It's a very deep question, obviously. So I want to begin by stating that we all have a tendency, all of us as human beings, to romanticize the past, to imagine the past as somehow being better, pure, more pristine. And as you grow older, you will do the same with your own childhood, right? And in fact, look around you, look at the MAGA movement, right? There's this nostalgia for some past that they've retrieved. The fact of the matter is, the brutal reality is every single epoch and era has its good and bad, right? We just have a tendency to reimagine the good bigger than it was and to overlook the bad, and that's human nature. And I say this because I don't want you to feel deprived that, oh, we're in a bad time and a bad place. No, you have different challenges. I'll be the first to tell you that. But you also have amazing opportunities that I didn't have. So I want to begin by prefacing this notion that don't assume that things are always getting worse in every single arena and department. Because if you set your stage and paradigm with that negativity, it's going to impact your productivity, and we don't want that. So indeed, I completely agree with you that in some aspects, there's a lot of problematic statistics. Every survey has shown, every single, even Harvard has a detailed report that talks about the rise of mental health issues, the rise of, as you said, suicide issues, or, other very, very troubling statistics. At the very least, those numbers have tripled or quadrupled in the last 40 years, right? At the very least. And the most conservative statistics, that's terrifying. It really is. But that shouldn't lead you to think that it was all rosy and glamorous back in the 80s or 90s either. We had other sets of problems. We had other issues. And one of the things, so you're asking about my own, so much can be said here, but like one of the things that, of course, in my time frame, I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, our community was so small. I mean, I honestly am in awe of what I'm seeing in these last few nights of our youth, you guys, just thriving, flourishing. You have to understand that this is just surreal for me to imagine something like this back in the 80s or 90s. We couldn't have the sheer quantity and quality of all of you enthused Muslims. Tonight's one of the nights of Ramadan. It is now 11:40 p.m., right? And all of you are here. Yes, you want to socialize, but deep down inside, there's also a connection to the religion. You want to hear about Islam. You want to know about your culture, your identity, your religiosity. And that is a massively positive development that simply did not exist back in the 90s. So indeed, we had a different upbringing, a different, childhood. I had a very different childhood. Our entire community was one mosque in Houston, Texas, back in the early 80s, one masjid, that's it. And then 2 and 3 slowly popped up. Can you imagine? Maybe just a few dozen families, that's it, right? My father, as you probably know, was one of the first Pakistani Americans to come to Houston, 1962. He came. So one of the first families to get there, right? And when I came to University of Houston, our MSA was probably as large as you guys right now. But listen to this. I was one of only 2, as far as I know, who were born in America. The entire MSA and the people that would come were basically foreign students. Frankly, some of your parents were of that generation. That's all I am, right? Some of your parents are of that generation. That's my batch and old. So you can imagine the amount of problems we would have are totally different, or the types of, I should say, the types of problems we have, right? We're dealing with foreign students coming from overseas. We're dealing with Pakistanis, Malays. There were so many Malaysians, right? Khalijis, Arabs, we had Saudis and Kuwaitis. We had so many Indian students, so many foreign students. Back in the 80s and 90s, that was the peak of American universities wanting to bring in the foreign students. As I said, most of your parents are probably from that generation. I was one of the only, actually, one at the MSA board, the only one, because there was one other brother that would come pray with us who was born in America that I knew. Everybody else is from overseas. Now, I'm pretty sure hardly any of you grew up overseas, or even if you were born overseas, almost all of you have been raised here. I'm assuming that's correct, right? Almost all of you, right? That's a very different dynamics. So that has its pros and cons, its positives and negatives, right? We had to deal with a very different mindset. I had to deal with a very different mindset. The notion of, I'm not even speaking to Americans when I give a khutbah. These are all foreign students, right? My first khutbah given at U of H, can you imagine? Everybody's a foreign student there. The level of activism, the political engagement, the ownership of society, that's not going to be there. It wasn't in my rhetoric. It wasn't even in me, frankly, right? It took me decades of thinking who I am, my own identity. It took a while for me to form that, because my circumstances were very different than yours. And what I see in you, you know your identity much earlier than I had to figure mine out, because you have been blessed with that you're ahead of the curve in that regard. You didn't grow up amongst foreigners, amongst people. You're already, your heritage, your identity, your attachment to this place. Alhamdulillah, that's a very big positive. So bottom line, the reality of Islam in the 80s and 90s really was much more of a fresh immigrant Islam. And again, I have to put the caveat, obviously I grew up amongst the immigrant community. The sad reality, the African American Muslim community at that time frame, and still unfortunately, was a bit disconnected from ours, right? We have two trajectories of Islam in this country. It's really sad, but I'm just being factual here. You have the African American community, alhamdulillah, they're 30% of Muslims in America, right? And their masjids, their khatibs, their scholarship, it is slightly disconnected from the immigrants. That is just a fact. 9/11, by the way, did help form bridges. We did start bringing some, alhamdulillah, ties and whatnot, but pre 9/11, completely disconnected communities, right? So anyway, to finish off my point here, that I would say the biggest difference is that, number one, the quantity of Muslims now is much more. And number two, the attachment that you all have to your American Islamic identity is much more pronounced. And hence that comes with a new set of pros and cons, a new set of challenges. That answers your question.
I think one of the things I wanted to highlight was, like, because of the immigrant populations mostly coming from the East, there were also this idea of collectivism, versus here is very much individualized. And as much as, like, we have the benefits of big community and we have events like this, I think a consequence is also like I've had so many friends come to me like, man, I go to Qalam and I go to all these places and they're beautiful and they're doing amazing stuff. But then when I try to have deep, meaningful connections, I'm not able to do that. People say, like, everyone already has their friends, everyone already has their cliques, And I would even say, like, a lot of the people that I know who have gone through depression and drug abuse and addictions, it's because of this feeling like I don't have a community behind me. Yet people are moving here for a community. So what are your thoughts on, like, the hyper individualization that's happening in America now, in our communities?
So actually, when you're talking about this issue of community, I just remembered, my father telling me of the first group that formed the first masjid in all of Texas, which is now Richmond Center, which is in almost downtown Houston, back in the late 60s, early, so this is before I was born, late 60s, early 70s, that there was one Iranian, two Pakistanis, two Turks, one Malay, and one Arab. Complete and in fact, different, there was Sunni and Shia as well. Everybody's coming together because you needed the support of whoever was there. You didn't have the luxury to be divided. And my earliest memories, we're talking about the late 70s, that's how old I am, right? My 79, 78, 79. My earliest memories were of that batch. of that small group of 6 or 7 families coming together. Everybody's dressed different, speaking different, but you know these are our people, right? Because there are no other people, there are not thousands of desis, there are not thousands of, no, small community and coming together. And obviously, as we're now becoming, mashallah, of a critical mass, with people of similar backgrounds coming together, unfortunately, one of the things that happens is easier to form cliques. It's easier to subdivide, right? And that is a reality that we need to be very frank about. Now, obviously, there's the big elephant in the room that we haven't talked about, and that is social media, the internet, cell phones. Every single study that has been done about the causes of the rise of depression, the causes of the rise of loneliness, the causes of the rise of people taking their own lives, every single study that has been done has demonstrated that the number one cause is isolation and overemphasis on social media. Isolation from other human beings, isolation from physical connections, isolation from people. You get into your bubble and social media allows you to remain in that bubble. Social media gives you the illusion of connection, but it's not actual connection. And in that, you find people that might not be the best companions, or you find people that have alternative identities. They might be somebody else online versus they are. And so you cut off from society. And this is something that I thank Allah I wasn't this. One of the biggest positives in my opinion. I am so old, guys, that cell phones didn't come out until way after I had finished university. My entire university, nobody had a cell phone. I remember one student who was a very rich Kuwaiti, right? Very rich Kuwaiti student. He was the first person that I saw with a cell phone, and those cell phones had a special backpack. It was larger than, a bottle of water. It's a massive phone with a massive, antenna, but you had a backpack on it. This is 1994, whatnot. Right? And we were so impressed that he has a phone that he can carry in a backpack. Okay, that it was like, this concept didn't exist. The internet came out in my last year of university. We had 1994, the internet just came out. There was no such thing as cell phones or social media or whatnot. If you wanted to meet somebody, you literally had to physically go to the MSA and sit there waiting for people to come because you couldn't coordinate with them with cell phones. Hey, what time are you coming? Right? Can you imagine not having a cell phone and text? What time will you be there? What's your schedule? You literally just go and physically interact with people. You go to the cafe, you go to your class, you go and you talk to people. You form social skills, you form friendships, you form bonds, right? It's a very different world. Whereas now, you can literally stay home all day and be busy on your phone, quote unquote, talking to people without ever actually talking to a person. It's surreal to me because I caught that era and I'm the last to catch the era because right after maybe a few years, the proliferations took place, right? By the way, guys, interesting story. I was in Medina for 10 years, right? So when I would go to Medina, I would stay there for 9-10 months because obviously I'm studying. I just come back for the summer. And I remember every time I'd come back, I get a shock at how technology has changed because I was in a bubble for 9-10 months. You can imagine this is the late 90s, right? I didn't have a cell phone in Medina until the 2000s. I didn't have internet. So even in America, in Medina, it's even more lagging, right? So I have a lag. Every time I come, I'm shocked at the technological jump taking place, I have a funny anecdote. I know it's not relevant, but you're going to find this hilarious, right? I remember one time I landed, this must have been, I think, 97, 98, okay? So again, imagine 10 months cut off from technology, cut off from social media, because I'm in Medina. I have no clue what's happening on this side of the world in terms of the minutiae and on all of the achievements and whatnot. And I remember landing in the airport, right, fresh off from Medina after 10 months, and I see this guy impeccably dressed, complete suit and tie, you can tell he's intelligent, whatnot, and he's walking down the airport and he's having a full-blown conversation with nothing in front of him or behind him. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with this guy? Who is he talking to? And he's having a conversation about having a meeting and this and that. And wallahi, I thought, this must be a lunatic. Because I hadn't yet discovered, that you have this piece you put in your ear that can actually connect to your phone, and you have a full-blown conversation. I've never seen this in Medina. And the guy's just walking along, and I'm not noticing this little earpiece over here, not right now. But the notion, again, of how much technology has changed society, you guys cannot even imagine a world without phones and internet, right? Can you? And I caught that world. And I feel, in my humble opinion, that yes, I don't want to go back to that time frame, because the perks of social media, the perks of technology, the perks of cell phones, I mean, you're being handed connectivity on a silver platter. This phone can connect to anybody in the world. That is phenomenal. I can't even explain to you. If you told me about this when I was your age, I would never have believed you. That technology hadn't been invented. You can literally, wherever you are, make a phone call. We had to go, there was one phone in the whole house. And you had to literally dial the 9 all the way back there, right? You would have to dial and whenever the phone rang, everybody would run to see who it was. There was no caller ID when I was growing up. That came when I was 17 years old. No caller ID. So the world has changed so much for all of you. And that's a lot of good, but there's also negative. So I want to finish off this question with the point of, you need to ask yourselves, what are the harms then of not having that personal connection with other people? What are the negatives that come in my life when my relationship with another physical human being is primarily through texts, primarily through emails? I'm not seeing the human. I'm seeing light on a screen. And I'm sorry, that's not a human being. So I think we need a healthy, yes, take advantage of technology, but whatever you do, never stop your connection, your physical connection with other human beings, friends, family, cousins, relatives. There has to be a physical back and forth interaction, discussion, the flesh and blood, not just on a screen, or else you are disconnected from society. And in fact, the reason why we are called humans is because we're social creatures. Reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, we are creatures of social conduct. We congregate together. That is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One hadith that comes to mind, and then I'll hand it back to you, that the Prophet ﷺ told us that the person who interacts with others in society, even if it's difficult and he has to bear with their negativity, is better than the one who cuts off and remains disconnected from society. He's talking about no social media, just talking about, yes, there are problems interacting with other people, but you're going to be a better person for it. How else will you navigate the difficulties of society unless you interact with society? How else will you be productive? How else will you contribute unless you're a part of the very society you want to benefit? If you just shut yourself in your room, lock your door, if you're just online all the time with your games, with your cell phone, with your text messages, how have you contributed back to living, flourishing society? So bottom line, healthy balance. Take advantage of technology, no doubt, but never forget humans are humans, and humans have a soul. Humans have flesh and blood. Humans have physical speech, not just light on a screen. So make sure you have that human touch with your family, your cousins, your relatives, with your friends. That's going to keep you in check with your humanity as well.
Awesome. That actually goes and plays really well into our next prompt. This is an opportunity for you guys to sit and reflect with what we just spoke about and write your answer to this quietly. And then after a few minutes, we'll pick on someone and they'll be able to... You want me to read it? Mustafa, you want to read it? Okay. How has a hyper-individualistic mindset where personal success and independence has taken priority shape my own life? In a world of communication without community, how has this mindset impacted my personal and communal connections? So take a second, reflect on this question, write about it, and then we can talk about it right after this. Okay, Bismillah. Does any... I want to volunteer from the guys and the girls, and we'll go back to Sheikh. Yeah.
All right. So if you want to share what you and your group, maybe like the people around you were kind of talking about discussing, someone raise your hand, or I'll pick somebody random. Okay. Bilal.
Assalamualaikum. Oh, whoa, that's loud. I think I haven't experienced this mindset up until like this, probably this month actually, where I've mainly prioritized myself in all aspects of my life. And I think because of that, I went to South by Southwest, and going there and seeing so many successful Muslims within the creative industry and the potential that like we have as Muslims in all industries, it really like opened my eyes up to the opportunities that we can have as Muslims in this day and age. And so it's made me rethink a lot of like my career path, my future, and what I want within the next few years. And so I think because of that, not only that, but other stuff, I've just prioritized myself in general. Distance from some friends, got closer with other friends. But that distance, prioritizing myself, I think it's negatively impact some of my connections, but greatly positively impact others. But I think that's just life. And then what was your name?
Oh, Sifat.
Safat had a really good answer too. Completely different from me though. If you'd like to.
I think it's one person.
Oh, share what the group said?
Yeah.
Okay. My partner, he said, I think he was saying how nowadays in social media, everyone is more, I guess, social media has caused communities to kind of disperse because you can have online communities. And so because of that, it takes away the need of having those in-person communities. And those like, because you can meet people from around the world. So if you can meet people from the world, then what's the point of going to see people in person and moving to Dallas and having this Muslim community, especially? And so how has that impacted connections in general? I think it's good and bad. Good in terms of, he thinks it's more negative just because social media has kind of like what Yasir Qadhi was saying, negatively impact a lot of people in terms of leading them to depression, thinking that they have connections through online and not really seeing the value of those in-person friendships, relationships, etc., which is also a really interesting mindset.
All right, Jazakallah khair for that response. We're going to hand it off to Sheikh. And then right after that, we'll hand it to someone on the sister side. Okay, we can do that. All right. I don't want to do the first person I see. I have to I don't know. Okay, I see like 3 people pointing this way. So I'm going to.
Okay, Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Bintu, so I kind of answered in 2 parts. So the first part I said, it shifted my world from a space where it's surrounded by community to one that's hyper individual. I lived under the false pretense that I could thrive alone without depending on others, but that was simply not true. I am who I am today because of community and couldn't have gotten as far as I have on my own. And for the second part, I said, it has been lonely. There's a cognitive dissonance where social media makes us feel so connected, yet very alone. I have shaped my online community to reflect my personal values, which has really helped me connect with others in a communal way. Sorry for the voice check.
All right, Jazakallah khair. I was asked to make a quick announcement. If anybody on the sister side has like allergy meds, like Claritin or something, one of the sisters is asking for it. So you can raise your hand if you need it. And then if someone has it, you pass it along. All right, amazing. This is community.
I want to give this group a chance to speak real quick because I've heard they were cooking.
So I think when we look at the hyper individualistic mindset with people today, it kind of comes to mind that people are so hyper individualistic that they've lost the reliance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so when we think we can control everything, when we think we have the ability to do whatever we set our minds to without the bounds of qadr, without the bounds of the rights and responsibilities of other people, it really forces us to take a deeper look on what is possible. And so when things don't go your way, the job doesn't come through, the college admissions doesn't come either, or whatever it might be, people tend to crash out. And so we then have to come back and take a look at what can we do at a community level to kind of create that support system. Because at the end of the day, if we don't have the people that are next to us to feel supported when things do go wrong, and we aren't turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that same process, we have to kind of tend to rely on things on an external level, whether it be drugs, alcohol, other addictions. And so if we firmly root ourselves within that relationship with Allah, it'll then allow us to create the better relationship with our families and then extend towards, your individual community and even potentially, the rest of the world. But at the end of the day, that starts with Allah.
MashaAllah, really good points. Two of them I want to expound on. The first, somebody mentioned about the illusion of online communities. And that is so, so true. When you're online, you will find people that think like you, talk like you, act like you, but you have no clue who they actually are in their real lives. And maybe some of you are aware that I have withdrawn myself from social media because of this reality, that social media is quite literally an alternative universe that doesn't actually exist. It is a figment of the collective imagination of those that are in that online community. It has no impact whatsoever in the real world. Generally speaking, social media is an imagined community. And it is possible to get lost in that imagined community until you lose yourself. And that's the danger. And I found myself spending way too much time trying to defend or get involved in the, if you know what's happening on social media, you know the reality. And I realized, you know what? This is not going to benefit me. I withdrew. And alhamdulillah, I finished 3 books in the process since I've withdrawn. I've done so much, traveled the world. And you really see online is a fake imagined universe. It has no impact in the actual real world. So I have benefited immensely in my own personal sanity by withdrawing from social media. I'm no longer in charge of my accounts. I've handed over to somebody else, and I rarely log online and tweet. Rarely. Sometimes I do. I had to recently with the governor and whatnot, if you saw what's happening right now. But otherwise, it's not something I get involved with, And it's been, wallahi, I swear to you, infinitely better for my own personal sanity. Second point somebody raised about family. And allow me to speak, inshallah, as your older brother or older uncle, however you view me. I don't know how you are. My uncle Jiyad, I don't know. However you view me, right? Look, I have a lot of stress in my life, a lot. Death threats being one of them all the time. Even today, these people are crazy online. And the far right, and internal critics, and. I will be very honest with you. I'm sharing something very personal, but I want you to understand this point. One of the biggest motivations for me personally, one of the biggest sources of comfort and sanity is to just be with my wife and children. Just to be with my family. The amount of personal satisfaction. Wallahi, I don't care the negativity outside my house. When I come home and sit down for dinner and my wife and kids are there, who cares how much the world is hating on me? I have here all the love that I need. And I genuinely feel sorry for those who don't understand the benefits that happen when you have that personal connection. And I can understand why people go down dark paths when they don't have physical people to share their love with and to love them back. One of the biggest sources of personal comfort comes from the connections I have with my own family. And if you don't understand this reality, and again, let me be blunt here, especially when you're in your early 20s and you're single, it's very risky if you go down the path of isolationism. And again, let me be blunt here. The incel culture is an exact manifestation of that, right? The incel culture, the mass shootings that take place, one of the reasons almost invariably are people who have been disconnected from society. They're literally in their imaginary world. They don't have a human connection. And so they go down a very dark path. As well, most of the people, and again, as I said, that go down the path of self-harm or even, removing themselves from this earth, the majority of them, every study has shown, were those who immersed themselves in the imaginary online world and they didn't have a physical connection. So I urge all of you to understand online is imaginary. It's not real. Cut back. You need to, I get it, but you have some connection there, but that's not the real world. Make sure you prioritize the real world here. Physical interactions, especially family. Family, and of course the Quran mentions this, the Prophet mentions this. Look at Khadija. Look at, and he himself said this, that, nobody gave me the comfort of Khadija. When Iqra happened, who does he come running back to? Zammiluni dathiruni, right? He is the Prophet of Allah, but he needs a physical touch of the woman that he loved, the physical comfort to calm him down. If Rasulullah ﷺ needed that, you are certainly not better than him, that you don't need the love of your partner. So humble yourself and understand Allah created us to be social creatures, and that's where you will find the ultimate connections with life.
Before we ended off last question, we were talking about balance. And we hear from the member, we hear like, love for your brother what you love for yourself, love someone for the sake of Allah. But when it comes to practicality, it's like, I can't really be friends with everyone at the masjid, and that makes me feel like, oh man, like where do I really go from here? So I wanted to ask you, like, how do we contextualize this in our own lives, and how was this type of stuff manifested during the time of the seerah?
So obviously, when the Prophet was saying love for your brother what you love for yourself, obviously you cannot sacrifice everything for everybody. That's not going to happen. The goal is that as a Muslim, you must think of the collective and not just be selfish. That's the point here. Imagine what will benefit society. Imagine if I'm going to do something, so the smallest things, the Prophet ﷺ literally commanded the Sahaba that, don't leave something on the street. Somebody might trip over it. He said it's a part of Iman to remove something from the street. It's a part of Iman. He literally instructed the Sahaba, don't spit in public, right? Don't spit on the road. People are going to be walking there. Literally these small things, that is loving for your brother what you love for yourself. It doesn't mean you have to sacrifice everything for everybody. That's unrealistic. But it does mean that every time you undertake an action, you ask yourself, is this overall going to benefit me and society? Am I doing something that's going to harm other people? And yes, at some level, there should be a generic love. I want to benefit my people. I want to benefit the world around me. That's completely a part of Islam. So love for your brother what you love for yourself. I want my brothers and sisters to live better lives. I want them to have better education. I want them to live in a land where they're able to practice their faith. That is a part of Iman then. Therefore, tap into this hadith in order to be socially productive and beneficial, and remind yourself of what the Prophet ﷺ said. This is a beautiful hadith. I want you to take this as your mantra for the rest of your life. The best of the people are those who are the most beneficial to people. This is a hadith. The best of the people are those who are the most beneficial to people. This should be your motto. This should be your slogan. I want to benefit the most people in my life. That's exactly loving for your brother what you love for yourself.
I just want to practically, what can I do? Like, what can I do though? In terms of we go to these, we're part of these communities. I'm part of Nuun, I come in here, I'll say salam to a couple people, but how do we foster that connection that and I don't want to romanticize the past. That's not what I'm doing. But how was this manifested during the time of the seerah? From how did the Prophet create that environment where you have a person coming in and saying man, this person loves me more than anyone. And then obviously there's a hadith talking about how he loved Aisha more. But it seemed like this was a feeling that people had during that time. The Sahaba were disunited. Now, like I said, I have a friend in a different state who he tells me, he's like, man, I moved and I do not feel like I'm part of any community here, even though I'm going to all these places. So I guess how do we as communities fix this type of problems?
Good question. I would say two things, completely disjointed or completely separate answers. Number one, understand akhlaq of a Muslim. Why did the people feel the way they did in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ? It's how he treated them. The warmth, the friendliness, the smile, just asking. His whole body would turn and he would speak and engage with the person, give full attention to them, right? These days, you can't even sit with your best friend except the phone is going to come out in your face, while you're talking to your best friend, and even you're speaking and he's going to be texting somebody else. How rude is that, right? Literally, you're talking to in front of him and your phone's going to come out. That's not from the sunnah. So without a doubt, when you're not following basic akhlaq, and obviously then the cliques form and a new person comes and they're like outside the clique, you're not following the sunnah. The warmth, the friendliness, the stranger should feel a part of the community. And then secondly, very important point, separate to this point completely, and that is everybody has certain hobbies, certain passions, certain talents. Find people who share those talents and hobbies, right? That's how you form bonds. That's how you form friendships and connections. This is human nature. You know, that's how, I mean, look at the broader society here, whether they go hunting or fishing or golf, whatever it might be, you know, and yes, all of these are halal sports. You can do that, or other things that you're interested in, whether it's seerah, knowledge, whatever. Find people that have the same passions as you, and then physically connect with them and go on that journey together. And as you go on that journey, you will literally form the physical connections, the bonds of brotherhood or the sisterhood that need to be formed.
Awesome. I want to take this opportunity to almost ask you guys a similar question. Recall Iqbal's poem that we had in the beginning. That was awesome when you did that, by the way. It speaks of the tension between individual and communities, not being so much a tension, but a symbiotic part and whole relationship. What initiatives can we take as individuals and ourselves to bolster, strengthen, and aid our community? Be specific about the spaces that you're a part of and describe concrete actions that you would take. So I'm going to give you guys a second to write about this, take 2 minutes, and then we can talk about it and we can proceed. Okay, can someone volunteer from, ladies first?
Okay, so something that I was thinking of that was brought up actually earlier as well is trying to think of like, are we community building or are we clique building? And this is something that like you don't really think of actively when you're making friendships or you're building community, but it takes like a lot of like self-evaluation to see how much you're putting yourself out there for people to feel like they're being like included and actually being cared for outside of being like in your clique. Because to build real community and foster like these relationships or connections, you have to have a lot of humility and mercy. It's just stuff that Allah teaches us to be to other people. Because to have real community, you have to want the betterment of your community or the people around you more than or just as much as you want betterment for yourself. So when you think of building these communities, you got to think like, are the people in my community or the people that I hang out with, are we in an echo chamber? Is it like everybody I'm talking to, are they just echoing what I believe, or am I having meaningful connections where I'm having disagreements and I'm talking to people and we're coming to consensuses about things like that? That's how you make people feel like they're included, by hearing them out, hearing their perspectives, hearing about how they lived, what makes them them, you know? So it's like, you have to know, are we building cliques where everybody around me is echoing the same like political beliefs, educational backgrounds, cultural backgrounds? Is that all we're building? Is like everybody around me thinking exactly the same as me? Or am I reaching out to people and I'm building these connections or fostering these connections with people in my community where they'll be longer than just right now? And I think us being having access to social media and phones, it kind of gives us the feeling that people are easily replaceable and these connections are easily replaceable. Like if somebody doesn't believe the same thing as me, I'll find somebody else, you know? So it's like, you can draw people so quick. You don't have that humility or mercy on people to grow with them or teach them something that they didn't know. So like having social media and phones gives us a false sense of how easily relationships and connections can be like replaced all the time, when that's not really true. If you want to build community, you have to be with people when they don't agree with you, when they do agree with you, when they're at their lowest, when they're at their highest. You can't just be with people when they think exactly like you all the time, you know? Yeah.
All right. Jazakallah khair. Now somebody from the guy's side.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Regarding the prompt, I think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted everyone here a special niche and a special interest. just looking at the room alone, I think there's dozens and dozens of interests and occupations that everyone has, whether that be ITS, CS, engineering, in the medical field, being a lawyer, in anything really. We have to honestly find our niche, identify it, and implement that into our community, not only for the Ummah, but for the greater space in the Dawah space as well. So for example, if you're in IT or a CS, that's very generic, but you're offering IT services or CS services to your local masajid and local organizations, trying to get them their better websites, et cetera, et cetera. If you're into the culinary field, Dallas is already very oversaturated, but wherever you may be, you're opening up nice food and restaurants and stuff like that. If you're in the mental health field, you're offering faith-based counseling. You're offering counseling and services and medical services that have Islam rooted in them to help Muslims not only be empowered in their identity, but also get that secular treatment as well. So I think that identifying your niche, implementing that into the community, and getting over that mental hump that, oh, it's going to take too long to implement this. I don't have the energy or the willpower to implement this. There's so many other people who are going to beat me. Getting over that mental hump and really implementing that into the community and just doing it, I think that's what's going to get us far, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. And if you are in the culinary field, we really need more hot chicken places.
Alhamdulillah. So, listening to these responses, it reminded me of something the Prophet ﷺ said. And that is that shaitan attacks the lone wolf and he's further away from two. If you're with two people, it's more difficult for shaitan to attack you. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah's hand is over the jama'ah, the community. And the Prophet ﷺ said, stick with the community. Whoever breaks away is breaking away towards Jahannam. All of these ahadith are about sticking with people, keeping with the jama'ah, keeping with the community. Don't be individualistic. Don't break away. Because when you break away, literally the Prophet ﷺ said, shaitan can attack you easier. This is exactly what mental health experts are telling us. When you break away from society, you break away from family, shaitan can cause you to go down depression and do really bad things. And another point, one of the sister there mentioned that as well. And that is that the online communities that people have, it's an echo chamber. Radicalism thrives online. It doesn't really exist in the real world by and large. Why does it thrive online? Every type of radicalism, Islamic radicalism, the incel culture, the far right, it's more online. Why? Because when you interact with other people, you have to interact with people of differing views, and that automatically puts you in check. But when you're online, you're in your little bubble chamber, you're in little echo chambers, you're only interacting with people who give the illusion that they're on your wavelength. So you validate your echo chamber, whereas in reality, the very people you're interacting with online in their real lives cannot be the way they are online. We all are aware that you have an alter ego online. Even those people on the far right or on the radical, understandings, that's just a part of their identity online. They can't act that way in actual public. So it's so important for us Muslims to have a reality check and to stick with community. Right? Always stick with community. And I have to say this, brothers and sisters, I have to say this, that one of the concerns, I have a lot of concerns for your generation. One of them, I say that as an older brother, one of them is the rise of fanaticism and fundamentalism. It is a problem that I am genuinely worried about. The appeal of simplistic slogans, the slippery slope of fundamentalist understandings of Islam, that's not going to help us in the long run. But if you look at where that thrives, it is never in mainstream masajid. It is always online. Go and look to any community. Wallahi, the movers and shakers of radicalism don't have even an iota of impact in the real communities they live. The people who foment radicalism, the people who are the leaders of sectarianism, the people who are seemingly the loudest online, you don't even know which masjid they go and pray in, because they have zero impact in the real world. And that is why I'm encouraging all of you to get out of the bubble online and to interact with real Muslims Find communities. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said. Yadullahi ala al-jama'ah. Allah's hand is over the jama'ah of the Muslims. When you interact with a masjid, with a community, with thousands of people, automatically you cannot be simplistic. You cannot go down slogans and fundamentalism. You understand the world is more nuanced than simplistic slogans. And that is why I encourage all of you to be involved with living people, with communities, with masajid, with large organizations. And I have to say again, I can say so much unfortunately, but so much can be said. Brothers and sisters, the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ is a blessed ummah. Don't have negative thoughts of the ummah. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever says my ummah is destroyed, he is the most destroyed of them. This is a hadith in Sahih Muslim. Whoever says everybody's misguided, he is the most misguided of them. This ummah is a blessed ummah. And when you find large communities, when you find people that are flocking together, inshallah, there's khair in them. There's barakah in them. And when you find isolationists, when you find people breaking away, that's exactly what the Prophet said. فَمَنْ شَدَّ فِي النَّارِ. Whoever is breaking away going towards Jahannam. Allah's hand is over large communities. Find space within those communities. Be productive with actual people, and you will inshallah contribute positively in a legacy that will last way beyond your life, inshallah.
First of all, I never thought about like how these big celebrities are actually not at all, like you said, an iota in a community. It's a crazy idea to think about. But I want to talk about how a lot of our topic actually manifested in your life. There was a time when you were thinking about focusing on your, like, let me get my PhD. Let me do this. And on the other side of the world, you're seeing the aftermath of what is happening to Muslims after 9/11. Walk me through what you were thinking and just that period of your life.
I've spoken about this quite a lot, and my journey and my understanding of Islam is a very public one. I don't shy away from admitting my mistakes and faults and from talking about my own evolution, because I do believe there's a lot of benefit learned from the mistakes of other people. Pre 9/11, and remember, I came of age pre 9/11, right? I got married pre 9/11. I had kids. I was already a young man finishing my bachelor's degree in Medina, when 9/11 happened. So I already had a formative understanding of who I thought I was. I thought I knew who I was. I thought I understood a version of Islam that I felt was authentic and correct. And 9/11 happens, and I was actually in Medina. SubhanAllah, Allah blessed me that I was here in America in the summer, and then end of August, I flew back. If Allah had willed, if I had remained another 2 weeks, I would have been stuck here and maybe not been able to pursue, because they shut the flights down for months after. So I literally came to Medina a week before, and I was in Medina, and we didn't have a TV back then. An American neighbor, student came running Salat al-Asr, I remember, because 9/11 happened in the morning. It was Asr time over there, So I prayed Asr, and an American student rushed in because his dad had called him. And he's like, hey, Yasir, what happened? I said, what happened? Because somebody attacked the World Trade Center. You're going to find out what's happening. So I rushed back home, told my wife, my son Ammar, he's not here. My son Ammar was a little baby. I put him in my hand, rushed outside to my neighbor's house that had a television. I didn't have a television. And that's when I saw the second tower fall, right? I saw the second tower fall. And I knew deep down inside, the world is going to change. I just knew this is not a trivial thing. And the rhetoric began, and and then I remember my father, calling me a few weeks later, and I could hear the fear in his voice. And he actually said to me, don't come back right now. He didn't even want me to come back, because I was saying, don't come back right now. Things are changing, and 9/11 for me really was a massive wake-up call and a personal transformation about who I was, about my understanding of Islam, about my understanding of what I wanted to do with humanity. Because, and this is very public, I don't shy away from this, pre 9/11, I was a very sectarian-minded person. I thought one interpretation of Islam. I was quite black and white in my halal, haram, bid'ah, shirk type of phase. And I really just thought that is the way forward. Simple fundamentalism, right? And 9/11 made me realize that the world is far more nuanced. And At the time, pre 9/11, I actually thought that I wanted to leave America permanently. Dar al Kufr and Dar this and Dar that. You know, you're taught these slogans and you like them. You don't really think critically. You just follow what people that you trust say. And you start thinking to yourself. And after 9/11, you know what I realized? I realized actually that is my country. And what's happening there, somebody has to explain to people on all sides what is going on. My religion is being smeared. My prophetism is being criticized. My book is being dragged in and being called very negative things. And somebody has to go back and explain why this is happening. And I know this sounds so crazy, but you guys understand this. But if I say this in a non-Muslim audience, it's easily misunderstood. Obviously, coming from a Muslim background at that time frame, I understood both sides of the Atlantic. I'll just say that, if you understand what I'm saying here. I understood both sides, why they're doing what they're doing. I fully understood. I don't want to say empathize, that's going to get me into trouble. I could see the perspectives of both sides. And I realized somebody has to build bridges to explain what's going on. I never felt as American as I did post 9/11. And that's when and my wife knows this, you can talk. That's when I went to my wife and said, you know what? I was set, my mind, my life, my vision, my passion. I was going to be the first American to ever graduate with a PhD in any Islamic university in Saudi Arabia. I was set to be. That was already there. I was doing my master's, my first year of the master's. I was set. That was my goal. I would be the first person, come back, having spent 20 years in Medina and whatnot. I would have been the first. I would have been. 9/11 was what triggered me to come back to America. Because I realized, what's the purpose of me being away when these are my people? I understand my culture. I felt American through and through. Because this is my land in the end of the day. I couldn't negate or deny who I was. I understood. It's my responsibility to come back and start mentoring my community, protecting my community. And by my community, I mean not just all of you, but the broader public as well. I don't want the broader public to hate my faith. And somebody has to teach them what my faith is. And that's exactly what I did. As soon as I handed in my master's dissertation, I told my professor, I'm leaving, I'm going to go back. And they were just shocked. You're literally set to go and how could you, what are you going to? I said, I have to go. My people need me. I have to go back. I don't know how I'm going to earn a livelihood. I don't know how I'm going to get a job. I don't have any idea. But I realized I need to go back. And that's why I decided to do a PhD on this side of the world, right? And I gave up for over a decade. It was my passion and dream. And alhamdulillah, Allah chose a better path for me. I didn't know I would have that path, right? I gave that up and I came back here, and the rest, as they say, is history. And I navigated a lot, because when I came back, oh my God, Islamophobia was a nightmare. You guys, this is the third wave of Islamophobia. And I have to go into a little bit of a tangent here. I have lived through 3 epochs of Islamophobia in the last 20 years in this country. You guys are just seeing the rise of the 3rd epoch right now with what's happening with the Columbia student, Donald Trump and his 21 lists ban, and all of this happening right now. This is the 3rd reiteration. So I'm a seasoned vet, been there, done that, bring it on. Because I've seen version 1 and version 2. When I came back, oh my God, la hawla wa quwwata illa billah, being pulled aside, interrogated, the quadruple S's, armed escorts in the plane for me. Do you know how humiliating it is when the pilot announces, we have a special request from the TSA, whatever, please everybody remain seated down. And you're like, what's happening here? And troops come in, well, not troops, but agents come in, and they walk to your place on the plane, says, can you accompany us, right? That's happening to me. Simply because I'm a Medina grad, a sheikh, whatever preacher, that's how crazy it was. Go and be interrogated for hours and hours every single time you travel, get on some weird watch list, this and that, intimidated, death threats. And then 10 years ago, another rise when you guys were probably in middle school or whatever. And now we're seeing the 3rd rise here. And we're going to weather through this, because in the end of the day, this is the battle that Allah has chosen for us to be a part of. This is our time, our place. And if you guys are not going to fight for your rights, then who will? If you guys are not going to ensure that your children love their faith and can contribute to humanity, who's going to do that? And so, yes, I am extremely passionate. I've said this many times. I have the opportunity to live in over a dozen countries. I could pick and choose where I wanted to live. And I have never once doubted my places here. Because Allah blessed me, tested me to know this land, to speak the language, to understand the culture. I have the most value over here because I know how to contribute. I know how to shape. I know how to move. This is where I know all of these things. If I go to another land, I'm going to be a foreigner, a stranger. I can hardly contribute. So I'm not looking at the negativity and running away. That's not Islam. That's not the seerah. That's not what my Prophet ﷺ taught me. I'm looking at the potential for positive. That's what I'm looking at. And in this country, the potential for positive is second to none. You can accomplish in this country what you cannot accomplish anywhere else. In spite of all the negativity, in spite of all the hatred, in spite of all the Islamophobia, you have the potential to leave a legacy, the likes of which you cannot do anywhere else. And so my final message to you in today's lecture is very simple. Embrace who you are. Understand Allah has blessed your generation with a task, with a responsibility that is solely yours. And I said this so many times, I'll say it to you guys as well. You are the only generation, and I'm the older part of your generation because we're basically firstborns, right? This is our parents immigrated, right? So I'm kind of like caught the very first of your generation. Yes, I am your generation in that sense. I'm not that old yet, okay? But there's only one generation. That's mine and yours basically. That is going to be first generation immigrants. You are fully in tune with your parents' identity. Almost all of you understand your heritage, understand your language. You might not be fluent, but you understand it and you know it. Your children are not going to have that luxury. And they're going to be very different, which is fine. You know, my own kids barely speak Urdu and whatnot. It is what it is, right? This is the one generation, yours and mine, that is going to distill the culture and religion of our parents and lay the foundations for our great-great-grandchildren to come. Your generation and mine. I actually thank Allah I was born in this epoch and era. It's super challenging, but it's also super exciting. What we do for the next 30 years will dictate Islam for the next 300 in this country. I say that again, and I want you to understand. This is my vision and philosophy. What we do for the next 30 years, because this is the foundational, this is the pivot, this is the filtering of our tradition down to America for many generations to come. What we do for the next 30 years will literally dictate and decide Islam for the next 300 years. And so you have to start thinking long term. Success is not going to happen in one day. I don't know if I'll ever see the end of Islamophobia in my lifetime. That's not my goal. My goal is to contribute to that foundation. My goal is to set up that long-term vision. What does it mean to be a Muslim in America? That is the question I go to at night sleeping about. What does it mean to be a Muslim in modernity? What does it mean to be a Muslim battling all of these identities, nation states and politics and democracy and liberalism and socialism and feminism and all of these things? What does it mean to be a Muslim given this reality? That is the question I'm constantly asking myself. And if you listen to my lectures, my talks, that is the primary theme that I'm constantly bringing up. Because that's who I am in terms of the intellectual understanding of Islam. And of course, for all of you here, that question can be answered politically, socially, economically, civilizationally. What are you going to contribute back to your nation? What will you show the world? What does your faith contribute to the land that you live in? And the sky's the limit. So many different ways we can contribute. In fact, we're doing it right here and now, because right here and now, you are creating a version, a culture of Islam that is unique to this part of the world. This is a new culture right here. The coffee shop culture, right? In the Taraweeh prayers and whatnot. This is a new culture. It wasn't around when I was your age. It's not around anywhere else in the world. The notion of, you know what, in this time frame, we're going to come, talk about our faith, engage, form bonds, friendships. This is civilizational Islam. And I encourage all of you to understand that Allah Azza wa Jal has blessed and tested you to be in this generation and to then ask yourself, what can I contribute to the ummah? What can I leave as my legacy so that inshallah when I'm gone, what I've done, whatever it might be, will remain for many generations to come. And at the very least, emphasize yourself and your family and your community. And if you do this, inshallah ta'ala, I'm very optimistic. I'm very optimistic that the future is bright. We're going to go through some hurdles. We've been through hurdles in the past, but alhamdulillah, on a positive note, wallahi, brothers and sisters, wallahi, to see all of you youth. I've been to the Lighthouse Initiative, your initiative, other initiatives across the country. There was the president of Pakistan, that was here, Imran Khan, the president during Imran Khan's time, right? He was studying here in the 70s. He was studying here in the 70s and he went back to Pakistan and he said something that I also believe in. He said something very true and I am a witness to that. He said that the children of the people that he was with are practicing Islam better than the parents that were here in the 70s. And that is so true. I am telling you, that is so true. That we respect our parents' generation, they sacrificed a lot, but at the same time, I don't blame them, but there was this notion of, they were not comfortable in their identities. There was a lot of shyness, a lot of embarrassment, and fine, but your generation, I see bravery. I see a claiming of identity. I see a pride that did not exist when I was your age because we didn't have all of you. We're very few of us born and raised in America, right? You don't need to prove your Americanness, whereas our parents did. And because they did, they were much more conservative and cautious, understandably, right? You don't need to prove, you know who you are. And with that knowledge comes confidence. And with confidence comes power. And with power comes civilizational strength. So I personally am so thankful to Allah to be a part of this generation. I thank Allah that I am the very beginning of this amazing generation to tap into your talent, your resources, your strength. And I see us going from strength to even stronger, inshallah ta'ala, peaks we're going to conquer. And that's going to be done because of all of your generation. So don't trivialize your roles. Do not trivialize your potential. Understand Allah has blessed you to be at a certain place in time, and then ask Allah that you reach your maximum potential. And that's only going to be done if you know who you are, you know your faith, you have strong family, and you have a good set of friends. With this, I conclude the 3 F's in that order: faith, family, and friends. Goes back to our theme as well. Faith, family, and friends. This is your recipe for success in that order. Make sure your faith is strong, prioritize your family, and have a good set of friends. That will keep you sane, it will keep you grounded, it will keep you productive, and it is the maximum efficiency for you to be a thriving human being. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of us to achieve our maximum potential, to allow us to participate in the legacy building project of creating a civilizational strength for the ummah. And may Allah allow, especially this month, to be a purification month where our sins are forgiven, we reconnect with our faith, and inshallah ta'ala are spiritually charged. And with that, inshallah, are we, Bismillah.
Whoa. I'm not gonna lie, we have one more prompt, but I don't even want to, this was I want to call it here, to be honest. I want to go home on this note. Mustafa, is that cool? Okay, let's call it. Wow. Thank you so much for taking out the time to speak with us today. Till next time. Inshallah. You want to do one last dua for everyone?
Okay, Bismillah. Let's finish off with the dua. If we can raise our hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum Ya Dhal Jalali Wal Ikram Ya Sami'a Dua. Oh Allah, you have said in the Quran, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. When my servants ask of me, then I am ever close to them. I respond to the dua of the one who makes dua when he or she makes dua. Ya Allah, here we are raising our hands to you, believing in you, knowing you are hearing our dua. Ya Sami', Ya Sami' ad-dua, Ya Mujib ad-dua, Ya Qareeb, Ya Allah. We ask you to strengthen the iman of our hearts, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, purify our hearts of any evil, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, make us proud to be Muslims, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, any doubts that we have, eliminate them, Ya Allah. Allow us to taste the sweetness of iman, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, allow us to grow spiritually every single year. We want to be closer to Ya Allah. Ya Allah, allow us to thrive in this faith, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, grant us beautiful progeny, Ya Allah. Grant us loving family, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, grant us the blessings of this dunya and the akhirah, Ya Allah. We ask for rizq that is halal, money that is pure and beneficial, Ya Allah. We ask for family that is loving, Ya Allah. We ask for friends that are comfort and supporting, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, any calamity that is destined for us, we ask that you avert that calamity away from us and grant us afiyah, Ya Allah. Make us give us the best of this dunya and the best of the akhirah. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً. Ya Allah, allow us to contribute to the civilization of this ummah, Ya Allah. Allow us to leave a legacy that will inshallah continue to accrue good deeds until the day of judgment, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, allow us to follow the footsteps of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Allah, we ask you for the best of this world and the best of the hereafter, Ya Allah. Strengthen our knowledge, Ya Allah. Strengthen our iman, Ya Allah. Strengthen our physical strength, Ya Allah. Make us the best of the people, as you yourself said, kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat nas. Make us the best of all people, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, forgive our faults, Ya Allah. We have sinned, but we know we have sinned, and you are the one who forgives sins. Ya Allah, allow our good deeds to be more than our bad deeds, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, accept our repentance, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, whatever sins that we do, cover them and conceal them from the eyes of others, Ya Allah. Do not embarrass us in this world or the hereafter, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, allow our iman to ever remain pure, Ya Allah. Do not corrupt our iman, Ya Allah. Do not test us through our iman, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we ask that we live our lives as good Muslims and we die as righteous mu'mins, and that we be resurrected with the righteous and the prophets, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, give us a good life and give us a comfortable life and give us a sweet ending in death, Ya Allah, and allow us comfort in the grave, Ya Allah, and comfort in the akhirah, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, let us be in the companionship of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la, Ya Allah. And we ask you, because you are the Rahman and you are the Rahim, we know we don't deserve it, and yet we desire it, and you give based on desire. Ya Allah, we desire to be in Firdaus al-A'la, even if we don't deserve it. We ask you to be in Firdaus al-A'la, Ya Allah. Ya Rahman, Ya Kareem, Ya Mannan, give us the best in this world and the best in the akhirah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala abdi Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een.